to Playbook for Performance, the official podcast of Shauna Corden, the Joan of Arc for corporate healing and performance. Join the quest to make work fun again by preparing leadership for engaging workplaces. And now, your host.
Hello and welcome, friends. I'm Shauna Corden, and I'm glad to have you here on the Playbook for Performance podcast. Our mission is to make work fun again by building better leaders. Now, this month's theme is all about engagement, and if you have a specific question on engagement, email us and we can add it to our social media. Drop a note to podcast@shaunacorden.com. Now, last week we talked about gifts and strengths and how they relate to engagement. And today we're talking about the best version of yourself. So just to recap the definition of engagement, we're talking about the combination of productivity, profitability, and retention. What is the best version of yourself? I think of it as the one that's energized, sincere, and egoless. The one that doesn't need anything from anyone and is quite content for everyone to be themselves. They recognize the gifts of others and are happy to collaborate and share their own gifts. The one that knows who they are and what they like and are content in that, yet ready to try new things. And finally, the one that's not guardedly jealous, but knows there's enough for all. It requires that you know yourself. What is your vision of the world and your place in it? What's your personal mission? You know that your goals help you further your mission, and your strengths and values you can apply to that vision. It recognizes your passions, what you enjoy, and what leaves you energized. It knows what's unique about you and doesn't shy from it. It is comfort with your preferences and tendencies, and it knows the strengths and liabilities of those tendencies in working with others. The sum of all these things is what I call your personal brand, how you are known to others. So I want to start with knowing oneself, beginning with preferences and tendencies. I'm a DISC provider. In the DISC assessment, we ask a minimum of 78 questions to determine one's preferences and tendencies. The questions are repeated in different wording, settings, and situations to ensure the answers are consistent. And in cases where there appears to be a tie, we ask additional questions to be sure. When I review the results of assessments with clients, some are not surprised at all and find the results affirming. Some find that they have adjusted to this due to the role that they play in their workplace and are very different at home. I find that knowing one's true preferences and tendencies, and also knowing there's no one style that's better than another, allows people to honor their own style. It also helps knowing that the world's population, regardless of gender, age, culture, or ethnicity, is roughly split 25% in each style. When I debrief the results of an assessment, I ask about primary relationships and ask the client to read their peers or their spouse. Are they more outgoing or reserved? Are they more warm and accepting or more questioning and skeptical? Based on the answers, they know how much more intentional they need to be in adapting their style to meet them halfway. This is often a light bulb moment. They say, that's why they're so short with me. Or, I guess I shouldn't tell long stories to win their approval. We could all use some tips to better understand others. When we step into their shoes and view ourselves, we see how we might be unintentionally annoying them, and what we can do to adapt our style and help fit their needs. I don't recommend acting as they do or becoming a chameleon. That can be frustrating to ourselves, hiding our best parts, and frustrating to others as they can't predict how we might respond, or worse, we're accused of flip-flopping. But I do advocate for acknowledging your preference by stating it and then your attempt to bridge the gap. Something like, I'd love to launch into my to-do list and get into business, but I recognize that might sound a little aloof and uncaring. And because I value our relationship, let me demonstrate with, how was your weekend? It sounds awkward to begin with, but it shows that you're making an effort, which will be appreciated by those who want to have rapport. Soon enough, it'll become natural with those who want this, and they'll adapt their responses to be brief and acknowledge, "Thanks for asking. I hope yours was great as well." Let's see how we can tackle this issue. One of my favorite features of DISC is what we call a comparison report, which offers tips for working with one another, including how different you are in preferences like tact or speed of work. I recommend people bring these reports to their one-on-ones as a lighthearted traffic light in reference to aiming for rapport and intentional adaptation. I especially recommend coaching sessions for pairs who regularly work together and even spouses. What are some standard operating procedures we can agree to respect one another's preferences and tendencies? When we honor our own style and we respect and adapt for others, we're ensuring a significant piece of being the best version of ourselves. Combining this with flow, exercising our strengths, and other elements of engagement such as autonomy, mastery, and purpose, we are ensuring we're not just checking a box when we clock in, but really giving our best and finding it tremendously rewarding. And that brings us to our tool of the week, the DISC assessment. It comes in many versions: workplace, management, and productive conflict, among others. If you'd like to be the best version of yourself at work, as well as improve communication and rapport, book a DISC workshop. Both virtual and in-person versions are available. Contact me at shauna@shaunacorden.com. So here's your field work, because coaching without action isn't coaching, it's just entertainment. Consider the communication gaps in your team. Where are people not honoring their own styles and the styles of others? What adjustments can be made? What steps can be made to allow both parties to compromise for a better result? What practices or processes can you put in place to ensure this becomes standardized? Each week in the podcast, I like to highlight a leader doing it well in the news or from a listener, and one that had a wobble. And if you'd like to nominate your organization, please email me at podcast@shaunacorden.com. It was relatively quiet news this week for the leaders, beyond politics, and that is not a territory I want to step into. But it was a very busy NFL football weekend with 4 games across Saturday and Sunday. Hats off to the kickers who won the day for their teams. I'm always happy when teams win due to their own performance versus a lack of performance by their opponents, even if it wasn't my team. Now I have to pick my teams to root for next Sunday as we edge towards the Super Bowl. That's all for this week. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, give us a rating, and tell your friends. If you'd like to hear more about a topic that would make your work fun by improving the leaders in your organization, please drop us a line at podcast@shaunacorden.com. Until next week, take good care.
Thank you for listening to Playbook for Performance. To learn more about Shauna Corden, her consulting programs and tools, please visit her website at shaunacorden.com and follow us on social media at Shauna Corden.